Hello, this is Arthur again, and today we have a little bit of a different video. I'm gonna show you my top 10 tools and tricks that I use to work on cars, and maybe you can use some of them as well if you're working on your own car or someone else's car. Maybe it will be helpful for you. Okay, here are some of the tools that I use on the daily pretty much, and I'm gonna show you some of them, and if you guys want to maybe adapt some of these ideas of how to use them as well, some of the things that I do with them. For example, let's start from one of them, these, which are the scrapers. Basically they're very useful, especially with European cars, BMWs. You have a lot of oil leaks. Whenever you drop the bottom pan down, there is thick layer of oil on a lot of them, and these really help to clean the oil around off before you spray with the degreaser and wipe it off. And I'm going to show you a clip how I do it. Another one would be some of these grabbing tools. These are pretty cheap, about $10 or so at the stores. This one I'm not sure where I got this from, but sometimes you drop things and they are not metal. But for the metal things would be a magnet, of course, would be very useful to pick it up. But sometimes like plastic or something you drop in the engine bay and you can't reach, you can use one of these and pick them up really quick. Also, what I found useful is if you have a bolt that has a broken head, but they are easy to turn out and you have no room to get to it with your fingers to get it out, these pick up the head of the remaining bolt very well, and you can just twist it and turn it right out. This is very useful as well. I use these very often, and these are, I'm not sure where I got this one from, but this is a very good tool as well. Recommend finding one. Another one would be a drill with a drill bit. These are usually, you can use for different things, of course. What I like to use them for is for deploying airbags on the cars, not safety airbags, but suspension airbags. On a lot of Mercedeses that have airmatic, or BMWs that have air suspension. Sometimes you have to go with a scanner to deplete the air from the strut, from the spring, and if you have the key off, this would be a very quick way to release the air if you don't have access to the bolt. Sometimes you don't have access to the port, and you can just drill it through and it comes right out. I'll show you a clip of how I do those sometimes. Another one would be this tray itself, and I'm gonna show you some of the uses for it. Another one would be these trays. They are metal trays. They're around $15 each. They do sell them at most auto parts stores. I have about 10 of them, and I use them for multiple different reasons. But one of my favorite things to do with them is whenever I work on suspension or brakes, like it is the case with this very nice M4, I do put these down on the rail. This will be very useful for anyone with a 4-post lift, or whoever is doing the work on the floor, on the ground, or even if you have a 2-post lift, you can still lay this under it, and whenever you work on it, suspension or brakes or any components around this area, let's say you remove the wheel liner, a lot of debris falls or dirt, and instead of it ending up on your ground, then you have to clean it. Let's say you use sprays or whatever, All this tray catches all of that stuff, and so the work area is a lot cleaner. Another benefit to this is you can put some of your bolts such as these or tools on it or sprays, and then you can work your way around, and then once you're done you're out onto the next wheel and you continue. I usually have few of these sitting around whenever I do like a big job. I even have these sit in between the rails of the lift. It actually is a perfect size, it fits right on them, and whenever the car has a leak or I need to wipe down something and I don't want it falling on the ground, on the floor, I do use these, and they are fantastic tools to use. Cheap and reliable, and you can always get a new one in case it gets damaged or anything, and they're great. I really recommend getting these. I got these from O'Reilly, and I think they sell them in every stores. Another one of my favorites are this Stubby ratcheting wrenches. Harbor Freight sells them in metric and SAE form. So what are these useful for is usually, tight spaces, your motor mount bolts or anything. If you've ever done Mercedes motor mounts, there's not much room in there. They have like special tool. You can use that tool to loosen it up, but to drive the bolt out, you need a ratcheting wrench a lot of times, and these work great. You put a 5/8 on it, with your hand you can drive them out. Very small amount of room, and these work very, very good. They're about $30 per set, and they're great. I highly suggest using them. Another one would be this catch pan that you can use for different things, of course, to catch fluid. This, what I often use, is for oil changes, and I'm going to show you how I use it. Okay, here's another one. Whenever I have a car that has a top mounted oil filter like this BMW 330i or a Mercedes or Jaguars, a lot of cars have engine mounted filters. They go here. Whenever I remove the oil filter, I'll put a rug around here, which is pretty self-explanatory, as you should be doing anyway. And then once I remove the filter a little bit, I'll let it air out slightly, get the oil that is in there come out so it doesn't drip out. And then what I do is I get one of these pans and I slide it right out under it, and then I take it to my table to change the filter and gaskets, whatever is on it, so it doesn't contaminate oil anywhere in the engine bay. It's a small thing to do, but it keeps your work area clean. Whenever I work on cars, I always wear gloves. I do it to keep my hands clean and also to keep the customer's car clean. I don't like touching anything inside the car with dirty hands or on the paint or anything like that. And I don't like anyone doing that to my car, so I don't do that to other people's cars. So what I do is I buy these gloves. These are the ones that work the best for me. I buy them from eBay. 10 boxes are around $110. And what I do is I usually double glove. I used to work in a hospital before, so I'm used to wearing gloves a lot over the years. So what I do is I put a set of clean gloves on my hands, and then I put another set of gloves on top of these first ones, and I keep the first ones on pretty much all the time unless they rip or no. And whenever I need to change the gloves, they got dirty, I need to touch something inside the car, or they got a little bit ripped, I'll just take this one off and I'll put a new one on over this one. Your hand won't sweat, that way your glove doesn't sweat, so you can put over and over and over, taking it in and out again, and it works really well. If you want to keep your hands clean and your customers' cars clean, I highly advise using gloves, and these are good ones. I have one of those Teslong cameras, borescope cameras, that is very useful to look at different areas in the car. If you can't see it, access, it has a flexible line. It's very good quality picture it's a good device to see issues. But sometimes if you don't have this, most people have phones nowadays, you can lay your phone down at the area and press record, and then do whatever you need to do to see if the problem shows, and record it, and then go back look at it if you don't have a second person to look at it or something. And I'll show you a clip sometimes how it works for me right now. Another one, if you have like a transmission or transfer case, often it will take an Allen or 14 millimeter or something, and usually there's very little room to sneak the tool in to get it out, and there's not that many wrenches that are really small to get in the area. What you can do is you knock this bit out of here, you just put a screw or something and you hit it with a big hammer really hard, and this comes out, and it's very short Allen tool basically you ended up with. And if you have like a box wrench or really any like a ratcheting wrench, you can slide it over and work your way out and release the whatever you need to take out or install it. This is how I do it usually on like X5s or X6s transfer case. There is no room for it at all, and this is very, very useful. And you can do it to any sizes. There are 16, 10, 14, and you have no room, and an angled Allen doesn't work very well. This would be a good way to do it, to remove it and use a wrench or a box wrench. Another one I like to use is external Torx, the internal Torx. These are regular Torx, no difference what brand you go with. But what sometimes I do is, let's say it is a 12 millimeter and you have a tight space, I'll loosen it up using the 12 millimeter. And then if there's no, it's very difficult to get it on the bolt. Let's say it's a transmission bolt or something, and you have no room to use a swivel adapter or anything like that. Sometimes that happens. You can use a 14, not to break the bolt loose, but to drive it out, to drive it in. It gives you a little bit of angle to sit the socket on the bolt, and it gives you just enough room to be able to use a tool to drive this out. Same with the internal Torx as well. You know, you can break it loose with the 30 and use a 27 to drive it out. It just makes things a little bit easier. Alright, hopefully the video was useful for you. There are many different types of tools that people use. I use a variety of different tools, but these were the ones that sometimes, you know, I find myself using them, and I'm like, you know what, I can share this with someone else and they can get this idea and use it as well. The simple things, I wasn't trying to concentrate on really big stuff, but something simple that everyone can use and get some kind of idea or enjoyment out of it. Thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. There are more videos to come.